Welcome back to the channel. My name is CJam, and in this video we're going to be having our spoiler discussion for Marvel's Eternals. And yes, I loved this movie, but is it different from all the other MCU movies? Yes, absolutely. You bet it is. It is very different. Is it lacking in the Marvel formula, all the excitement and the big explosions and the action? Yes, it is. But for me personally, I loved it because I am big on history. I love that kind of storytelling set in the past. I love looking back into yesteryear in the form of movies and TV shows, and to me it's a giant history book of the MCU, and that's why I loved it, because of all the history involved in this movie. The story is just so rich, and I love that stuff personally. And for me, this movie needed more time. It was about 2.5 hours long, and I wouldn't mind if it was 3 hours or even more. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And with that considered, could this have been like longer but in the form of like a Disney Plus show? I think that would make a really good show, and I really hope we get Eternals 2 and 3 because I really enjoyed it. And I have a couple questions like from this movie, being that they're so long lived, they've been alive for 7,000 years. Can they have children? Why was that not addressed? I found that so annoying. Obviously they have man parts and lady parts because we saw Ikaris and Sersi doing the business on the rocks underneath the sunset. So they have body parts like us, right? So can they have children? Why was that not addressed? And yes, they're synthetic beings. They're like super advanced robots like Vision, but with all the celestial energy that flowed into Sersi at the end when they turned that giant celestial into a stone, she was able to turn Sprite into a human, right? So does that mean no? Well, not does that mean, that means for sure no, that Sprite can grow up and have a family and have children. So being that they were made from, that was my phone, just a second, being that they were made from all that same celestial energy that turned Sprite into a human, why can't they have children? That was just so annoying to me. And but I wasn't too upset, but it was just a little bit annoying, right? And speaking of the emergence, when the celestial was emerging and you saw his head come out of the ocean and his fingertips started to come up, like that should have caused like way more damage. The damage from that emergence, or that little piece of the emergence that happened, should have caused like global catastrophes. Like, am I supposed to believe that that giant figure came out of the sea and nothing happened? There's no like side effects of that? I don't believe that. And I hope they address it going forward in the MCU, because that giant stone figure will always be there, right? It's not going anywhere. So there are a lot of questions that need to be answered concerning that emerging celestial. But I think it was so cool, seeing the birds like flying by it and it just like sitting there in the middle of the ocean. I thought that was so cool. And I'm thinking about the Eternals like being so long-lived, being that they've been around for so long. They're supposed to be like really drained emotionally because they've seen so much. They've seen so much of the people who they've come to know while being on Earth like would have eventually passed away, because the average human being lives for so long and they've been alive for 7,000 years. That's supposed to be so rough, because when we lose family members, we know how hard that is. So I can just imagine like what they've been going through for these millenniums that they have been alive. Or is it millennia? Is that the plural of millennium? Millennia? Or is it millenniums? Somebody let me know in the comments. And they're 10 Eternals, right? 5 thinkers, 5 fighters or warriors. Why can't more of them fly? why is it only Ikaris who can fly? I mean, I don't mind it. I love Ikaris, but why can't more of them fly? Like, right? Ikaris has flight. He has super strength. Makkari has super speed, and that's about it. There's not really any much more superhuman abilities. Like, Gilgamesh is super strong, but like, right? Why can't somebody else fly? Why can't they do like other cool stuff? Those are some of the questions that I have like coming out of this movie. And of course, they have 10 characters. Is it 10? I think it's 10. It should be, yeah, the 5 thinkers and the 5 fighters. So let's go ahead and jump into these characters because it's so many of them. So let's start with the first thinker. Let's start with Sersi. So Sersi is the true lover of the group. I'm just looking at my notes here, and she's the most compassionate, obviously. And I thought it was so weird. Well, not so weird, but so like intriguing that she was with Ikaris for 5,000 years. You know, they were married, and you know they have the long-term relationship joke. Like, that's a long time. That's a long time. And she had this cool, she's a history teacher, and I love that. As I mentioned, I love history, and she had this cool line when she was talking to the statue of Charles Darwin, you know, when she was walking up the stairs in the beginning of the movie, and she says, I know, yes, Charlie, I know I'm late, or something like that. And it's so cool because she may have known Charles Darwin, you know, because she's been around for a long time. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I love those kind of historic things. But Sersi, obviously, she's a lover and not a fighter, and I thought it was so cool that she leveled up and she was able to like after Ajak's like little jawbreaker ball was transferred into her, the little gold ball, she leveled up and she was able to turn that deviant into a tree, and then eventually, you know, they were all able to form the Unimind, and she was able to turn that celestial Tiamat into stone. So I thought that was so cool. She's definitely going to be the leader going forward. So I really like her character of Sersi. And the actress Gemma Chan, she was in Captain Marvel. She played a different character before in the MCU. She played Captain Marvel. No, she played, what was her name in Captain Marvel? I can't remember her name, but she was blue in that movie, and she had like a cool hairstyle. She was on the Kree fighting squad that Captain Marvel was on, you know, so she was in the MCU before, and they just used her as another character. But she was blue, as I mentioned, so I guess you can't really recognize her, but she has been in the MCU before, so it's pretty cool to see her getting to be a star of her own movie, because she was like really a side character in Captain Marvel from 2019. So now let's move on to Sprite. Sprite is such a tragic case because she's the only child among the group, and that's not the reason why I say that. The reason why I say that is because of the Peter Pan and Wendy reference that Kingo mentioned, and I didn't even realize it until he said it, that she loved Ikaris. And when I found that out in the third time, like, oh my gosh, that is so cruel, because she's the only child in the group. And when she asked Kingo why would Arishem make her this way as a child, I also was wondering, why would he make her as a child? I just couldn't understand it, but I'm sure they'll explain it going forward in the MCU. And know that she's a human based on the ending of the movie, as I was mentioning earlier. When we see her next, the actress, is her name like Leah McHugh or something like that, she will be much older when we see her next. So that will explain why she's like grown that much, because in the comics, Sprite is a child forever, right? She's not supposed to grow up. So if she was still an Eternal at the end of the movie, then Marvel would have to like spend a lot of this money to de-age her and shrink her down back to how she looked in this movie. So turning her into a human being and writing her character the way they did, with her like wanting to have a family and age and just experience the human experience, if you would. I thought that was pretty clever on Marvel's part. So I really felt for Sprite's character, and I'm glad that she's now a human and she can live the life that she truly wants to live. So now let's move on to Ajak. She is the religious leader of the group. She's the wise one. She's the mother of the group. It's so weird when I thought about it, when I thought about her being the religious leader and she leading Ikaris astray. I was just like, wow, that is such a very interesting parallel, because Ikaris would said he would follow her till the end, as he always has, and she led him astray, and that's why he had to like cause her to die, or cause her to get killed by the Deviants, because we'll talk about Ikaris later on, but I thought it was so touching of her when she hugged him and said she led him down the wrong path. I thought that was a very interesting parallel, to have the religious leader of the group be the one to do that to the strongest person in the group, Ikaris. And it's just so sad, and it's true, because she's leading them to be true to the mission, but she burdened Ikaris with the truth. And as I said, we'll talk about him some more. So that was so, it was such a cool dynamic, and it's just sad that she had to die. But I knew she was going to die from the trailer. When I saw in the trailers they had the scene of her firing the shotgun at the Deviants, and when you saw that scene, it was like she's fighting for her life, and she's not supposed to be able to fly, or they're not supposed to be really fighters, because she's one of the thinkers, right? So I kind of knew she was going to die. So when I didn't know how they were going to do it, but when I saw the way it happened, I was like, ooh, why did they have to make Ikaris be the one to do it? But technically he didn't do it, but he had a heavy hand in it. But yeah, so that is it's just so touching, how the relationship with Ikaris and Ajak ended. And now let's go on to Druig. Druig is so cool and stoic. His accent is so cool. I liked that they let each of the actors keep their own accent, because the group is supposed to be diverse, right? So I like that they all kept their accents. And Druig loves the people of Earth. When they were in a flashback, I think Babylon, and then the war broke out and he could have controlled them, and Ajak said no, and then Ikaris was about to fight him, and then he's like, no, I can't stand to see them fight. I'm going to control their minds, let them stop fighting. And then he said, you're going to have to kill me to stop me. And I was like, whoa, he really loves humans. And I thought he was the bad guy or the problem child from the trailers, but he really wasn't. He's just really loving. Behind all of his grimace and his his frowning, he's really loving and caring. And I loved his sibling rivalry with Ikaris. When they just came back to the ship, their spaceship, and Ikaris had the snacks and he had the book, and they both wanted what each other had, and they just grabbed it from each other at the same time. I thought that was so cool. And then him and Makkari, when everybody saw that him and Makkari were chumming up to each other, and we were all like, wait, what's going on here? And then Kingo and Phastos was like, what is this? We don't like this. Are you two? I thought that was so cool. And they were cute together, so that was pretty cool. And then the last of our thinkers, Phastos, he's the Iron Man of the group, the inventor, with a steam engine that was reduced to the plow. I thought that was so funny. And then the atomic bomb, he was crying because he helped humans, helped us, advanced in technology, or become advanced in technology to invent the atomic bomb. And then what happened with the atomic bomb back in the day. So that was pretty tragic on his part, because he must have felt so guilty. And even Druig mentioned it, that he's part of the problem because of the stuff that he introduced us to, all the technology, because we all know technology can be good and bad. So I thought that was a pretty interesting conversation. And when he said he wanted to clip Ikaris's wings in the finale, in the last part of the movie, what's with everyone wanting to fight Ikaris for 7,000 years? Thena said she's always wanted to fight him. How dysfunctional do you have to be for everybody to want to fight Ikaris and clip his wings? I thought that was so weird. But I guess because he's the strongest, he is to be envied. That's what I'm assuming. But hey, we're not living for 7,000 years, so they have different problems, right? And now we're on to the fighters, and we're gonna start with Gilgamesh. You know, he's the Hulk of the group. He's the strongest one in the group. Is he stronger than Ikaris? I think there's an argument to be made that he is stronger than Ikaris, but we won't see that because he died, and I was so sad that he died. I really thought he would have handled those deviants that killed him in the Amazon rainforest, but he was distracted. And it's so cool because remember when he was teasing Ikaris about letting the deviant, when Ikaris said he was struggling with the deviant in London, and then Ikaris said no, he wasn't struggling, he was distracted. But then Gilgamesh got distracted by Thena because he had to be fighting, and then he's like thinking about Thena, and then he eventually got killed. And I thought that was so sad. And he loved Thena. He didn't say it, but based off how the story was going, it's clear he loved her because he volunteered to stay with her, and he was watching her through her mental stuff. So we will talk about Thena, but I need more of Gilgamesh and Thena. And the guy that played Gilgamesh, this is his first Hollywood film, his first film, you know, in Hollywood in America, right? But he's a huge star in South Korea, and it's amazing to me how each sector of the world has its own film industry and their own celebrities. You know, you have the South Korean film industry, as I mentioned, South Africa, Bollywood in India. The Chinese film industry is very, very huge, and you know, of course, you have Hollywood, US, and Canada as well, right? So that's just pretty cool and interesting to me. And you know, of course, we have our own little film industry brewing here and blooming here in Jamaica as well. So Thena, as we're on the note of Thena, Angelina Jolie is a great actress, undoubtedly. I was so surprised they got her and Selma Hayek, who played Ajak, as well, to come into the MCU. But Thena is always ready to fight. She's never backing down. She said, as I mentioned earlier, she's always wanted to fight Ikaris. When Ikaris said, Thena, play nice, you've never had to fight me. And then she said, but I've always wanted to. I thought that was a very good clapback. And did she have a relationship with Ikaris? What's with all those sexy looks at each other? Even when they were fighting at the end on the ship, and they were like looking at each other, and I'm like, no, it's not the time for this. What kind of look is that? But even her mental condition, it was very heavy, because the issue was, what was causing her mental condition is every time their memories would be reset and wiped for a new mission, something kept going wrong with hers, and she kept remembering everything from all those thousands and millions of years ago. She keeps remembering, and that's taking a toll on her brain. And I thought that was so cool and so interesting, because they have so many memories. They've been around since like forever. They have so many memories, right? So I thought that was a very unique angle to take with Thena's mental condition. And on the note of her memories, I thought it was so weird, you know, the big reveal when we find out that, hey, they really didn't come from Olympia, when Arishem the Celestial revealed to Sersi that, hey, there's no Olympia, you guys are all my creations. I have 1,000 duplicates of you, 1,000 duplicates of all your other eternal brothers and sisters. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, talk about living a lie. This is the definition of living a lie. And what are they going to do, right? It's Arishem. He's a celestial. What are they going to fight him? They can't fight him. So, whoa. I loved that reveal in the movie, by the way. So let's continue. Let's move on to Makkari. And we've seen a lot of speedsters on screen, but I think Makkari's powers, the way they were visualized on screen, looked the coolest thus far from any speedster I've seen. Not the Flash on CW, not the Flash in Zack Snyder's Justice League, not Quicksilver in X-Men or Quicksilver in Avengers Age of Ultron. Makkari, her speedster abilities are the best I've seen on screen. The way she was running, and you can actually see that she's running really fast, you know, when they sent her to find the point of emergence, and she was like running across the water, and then she leaped across the hillside, and then she just dropped down and started running. So cool, so cool. She made me love speedsters even more, and her running is much more believable than Ezra Miller's in Zack Snyder's Justice League, because we all know that the way Ezra Miller was actually running while he is filming those scenes, he runs weird, right? I don't know if the actress here runs weird, but the way they presented it on screen, it looked way better than Ezra Miller's in The Flash. And I don't mean to compare the two, but because we've seen so many speedsters on screen, and I'm a fan of speedsters, like I loved Makkari's running here and her powers. And when she was fighting Ikaris, the only reason why Ikaris was able to stop her is because he's super strong and he has his laser beam eyes, because she was giving him the business. And the sound effects when she has this technique where she just runs and just like booms and just like throws him back into the rock. That boom, that is so cool. Every time I see that, she did it twice, I believe, in the movie. So cool. And her red and gold suit is very similar to the Flash from DC. You know, he wears red and gold as well, so you can see the parallels there. But she is the best speedster I've seen so far on screen. She won that for me. What do you guys think? And then Kingo, he is the anime character of the group, because you cannot tell me that when they were in the Amazon rainforest and he was like, you know, charging up his beam, his ball, that was a Kamehameha wave. You cannot tell me otherwise, right? And he's so funny. He's so funny. When he was explaining to, or Sprite asked him, how does he explain to people that he's been in movies for over 100 years? And he's like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a part of the greatest dynasty in Bollywood history. Because he's like, this is my great-grandfather, this is my great-great-grandfather, this is my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father, me. I thought that was so funny. And he even said it, he got tired of moving because people tend to freak out when they realize that you don't age. And that's true, because that's a very real conversation that people will be having if they realize that somebody isn't aging and they've been around for like generations, right? Can you imagine your grandfather, your father, and you knowing one person all their life? That would be so weird. But that's a very real conversation that they would have if these Eternals were real. And is Kingo Karun's father? Is he his adopted father? Like, that comes back to my question of them having children. We need to know. If they can't have children, Marvel needs to just tell me that, hey, they can't, and I'd accept it. But that question cannot be left open. But I guess that's why they're leaving it open, because they want us fans to have conversations about it like we're doing now. But that was a burning question for me. I really need to know if they can have children, because if they can have children, that would mean that would have huge repercussions on the timeline, you know, from when they came until now. But I guess Marvel is just leaving it up to our imagination. And then Mr. Ikaris himself, he's Superman. End of conversation. He's Marvel's Superman. And I love Richard Madden, the actor who plays Ikaris from The Bodyguard on Netflix. I think it came out in 2018. It's a series. If you haven't seen Bodyguard on Netflix, you should. After he came in Game of Thrones, I think he came... Was it after? I'm not sure if it was after Game of Thrones, but Bodyguard on Netflix, and of course he's good in Game of Thrones too, but Bodyguard on Netflix, you need to watch that. And I don't think he's more powerful than Superman. I don't mean to compare them, but because they're so similar, I don't think he's more powerful, because we've seen a lot of Superman on screen, but Marvel made him feel more powerful than Superman in the way they presented him to us, because all of his brothers and sisters, fellow Eternals, they feared him. They knew they couldn't go up against him, right? So I thought that the way Marvel presented Ikaris here he is more powerful than Superman. And of course, he had that Superman joke where he said, "I don't wear a cape." I thought that was pretty meta and pretty funny. And I felt for him. I feel for him. He was so burdened with the truth, as I was mentioning earlier when talking about Ajak. He was literally burdened with the truth. Like, he left Sersi because of that. He just became what do you call that? He became a loner because of that. Sersi didn't know what happened or why he left, and that's why he left. I think that's why he left, because he just couldn't face them. Because when it was revealed in the end of the movie, when he came and suit up and he like used his laser beam eyes to like destroy the thing that Phastos was making in the ship, and it just came out to everyone that, hey, he killed Ajak. And then he was like, do you think it was easy to do you think it was easy having to lie to each of you? And his eyes became welled up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really heavy, because he's the strongest of them all, and then he has to lie to them every day whilst trying to take care of them every day. He is torn, and I felt for him. And the weight from having to have killed Ajak, I mean, not directly, but you know, indirectly, I mean, the weight of it all. I mean, when he wanted to kill Sersi at the end, when his eyes light up to beam her, but then he couldn't, and like, you could just see him just slowly crumbling as the movie went on, because his thing is, he understands that they have to stop the emergence, right? But he cannot protect his fellow Eternals, nor, most importantly, he cannot protect Sersi from Arishem and the rest of the Celestials. So he was torn. Talk about being between a rock and a hard place. That's Ikaris. That's who he was in this movie. And his best line for me, he don't try to stop me, and then he said, I'll kill every one of you if I have to. And I was like, whoa. He said the thing, and these are his brothers and sisters. And then when Phastos was so upset with him, and he said, I'm an eternal Phastos, I exist for Arishem, as do you. I was like, whoa. Talk about like a soldier marching on to the mission no matter what. I really loved his character, and I hope we see more of him, because I found out based on my reading that the writers of the movie Eternals, they said that at the end of the movie he flew into the sun. I mean, we all know the saying Ikaris flew too close to the sun, but why? Why would you let him do that just to fulfill some saying that we know? Like, seriously? Yes, when the Eternals come back to the ship and they get their memories get reset for new missions, right? Their memories get reset for new missions, but they have to come back to the ship. They have to come back to Arishem, right? So when Ikaris flies into the sun and you kill him, it's not addressed in the movie that he dies, but you're gonna tell me after the movie comes out that, yeah, he dies. How are his memories going to get back to the ship, so that even if we get a new Ikaris in Eternals 2, which I hope we do, how will you have the memories of this Ikaris in that Ikaris? Because you cannot have an Eternals 2 without the experiences from this Ikaris continuing. Like, I thought that was so dumb. And I'm not a screenwriter, I'm not a writer, but I mean, as a fan, like, that's not what I want. I want this Ikaris to continue with his burdens and his baggages. That is what leads to character development. And if they ever tell me that they're connected to the ship via Bluetooth or something dumb like that, I am going to lose it because they didn't have to kill him. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But I thought that was so annoying. I did not like that. And then other characters, Karun, he was the comic relief, you know. We needed him in the movie. I cannot see myself liking this movie without Karun, because to me he's funnier than Kingo. And when Kingo said, Karun, did you get that when he bopped the Eternal's head and it exploded on him? And he said, Karun, did you get that? And Karun said, I did, sir. I thought that was so funny. I literally laughed in the theater. I thought that was so funny. And then when he said, we're gonna, when the Eternals were discussing if they're gonna stop the emergence, and Karun said, yes, we're gonna stop it because humans. No, Sersi said, surely we're not gonna let all the humans die. And Karun said, yes. And then he said, I'm human, so I'm biased. I thought that was so funny and so true, because I was there thinking the same thing. And I could relate to him because as a videographer myself, or a cameraman myself, like he has all these backup cameras, right? And every time one gets smashed, he'd pop out with another one. So I thought that was so cool and personally relatable to me as a videographer as well. And then Dane, Whitman, Kit Harington from Game of Thrones, Jon Snow, for all you GOT fans out there. This was just an introduction to his character. He's supposed to be Black Knight. That's his he's a character in the Marvel comics, right? And he wields a sword that you saw him touching at the end, or about to touch at the end, but the sword is cursed. The sword has extraordinary abilities, like he can teleport with the sword, he can summon the sword from wherever he is. The sword is like really cool, but the sword is cursed. Every time you kill someone with the sword, I believe that person's soul is trapped in the sword or something like that. But the sword is cursed and it can corrupt his mind and all that. That's why when he was touching the sword, or about to touch the sword, you heard these voices and all of the little black stuff moving on the sword. It's weird. It's weird, right? And it's so cool because he was in Game of Thrones. Richard Madden was in Game of Thrones as Robb Stark, I believe. I think so. So to see the two of them here now is like really cool. And then, but as I said, this is his introduction. You know, we saw him in the post-credit scene about to touch the sword that I mentioned, and the persons that said, "Are you sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman?" Because his name is Dane Whitman, as he's about to touch the sword. The voice that we heard is actually Blade, the new Blade, not Wesley Snipes, but Mahershala Ali, who will be playing Marvel's Blade. And I am assuming that Dane Whitman, Black Knight, Kit Harington's character, will be in the Blade movie, because we should be getting the Blade movie not next year 23, but I believe 24. So I'm assuming that he will be he has to be in it. That's the only reason why Blade will be in this post-credit scene. So he's pretty cool. He will be a much bigger character going forward in the MCU, because they scooped him up right as Game of Thrones season 8 ended, I believe, and you don't get an actor as big as Kit Harington to just like off to the side like that, right? He's gonna be a much more prominent character going forward in the MCU. And then Arishem, the Celestial, he's literally larger than life. I would be intimidated by him too, but he's not perfect. He makes mistakes with how he designed the Deviants, and we all knew he was going to come for them at the end. When he said, when they thought everything was going to be peachy and all is well, I was like, no, this is not going to go well with Arishem. Arishem is not going to sit and take this. You guys killed a Celestial. You think that's going to go over well with him? I don't think so. And so said, so done. He literally burst the sky open. Talk about Bible reference. He literally burst the clouds open and came for them. And I knew that was going to happen. And I wish we got more Celestials, but there was only so much time in this movie. And as I mentioned, the Deviants, they really didn't do a lot, but I felt for them. They just wanted to survive, as that one Deviant said when he was evolving. And they didn't know that they were flawed by design, so they were just existing, right? They were just doing as they were made to do. And I've talked about the post-credit scene with Blade and Harry Styles obviously playing Star Fox, and he will be in Eternals 2. I really, really hope we get an Eternals Part 2, because I love this movie. So that is my review, spoiler review of Marvel Eternals. Have you seen it? Are you gonna see it? It's now playing on Disney Plus. You can watch it at no extra cost. Be sure to let me know what's your favorite moment in the comments below, and I will catch you guys in the next review.